The first thing I want to touch upon with the few minutes that we have here is I've been bidding actively in auctions the last few days. Like I'm sure many of you that are out there that are watching the show now live and on replay are doing, meaning PWCC, Heritage, Collect, and probably eBay and anything in between. And so the specific part of the market I wanted to comment on as far as vintage was actually vintage unopened. And what I mean by unopened is, packed boxes, I guess in some situations, cases, but they're virtually non-existent as far as, vintage wax goes. And so, the first thing I would say is prices are still very strong. However, the outliers, the items that if they were in my possession and I would consider auctioning, meaning like you have all the upside of the auction, probably not a lot of downside as far as unopened, is the rare one-of-a-kind items that maybe, a couple of years ago used to see a lot, but now they're only auctioned every several years. So it seems to me that those kinds of items are still garnering substantial premiums, even though everyone who's kind of in tune to the market knows prices in general right now are down. However, what I found with unopened, like I said, is that the market is fairly stable. And the only reason I can say that is I bid on tens of thousands of dollars of wax in the last few days. And I won a few items, but nothing to write home about. Like a 1979 basketball box, like some 80s wax, a mid-70s football box. But, I was the underbidder on the 87-figure basketball box and a bunch of other basketball that was in Collect. And so the point being is that even when, the market is down, if you know a particular niche like vintage and open that I have experience in, it still can be a situation where finding a bargain can be difficult. So don't get hung up on that. Hey, for example, you love vintage unopened. Well, if you also collect photography and cards, maybe if unopened hasn't gone down the way that you like and the investment opportunity isn't there for you, just take your efforts and move them elsewhere. Or to be fair, just take your cash and keep it on the sideline. But that was my 2 cents about vintage unopened the last few days. I was personally looking for a discount. Just, being transparent, I was hoping for between, let's say, 15 and 30% off, and I didn't really see it. I found a few items that fell through the cracks, but in general, it seemed like prices were very solid, and in some cases, actually strong.
So despite the state of the market right now and a lot of the narrative that we read and see out there on social media, you're saying that the vintage unopened category is holding pretty strong, no discounts available. One of the things that I think people understand, and they should, especially, you have a store, you have a business called Just Collect, but you also have vintage breaks. So you buy this vintage product to do vintage breaks. I'm guessing every time you or anybody else opens up an unopened vintage product, again, a pack, a box, or a case, you are reducing the overall supply and population of that item. And so you would think basic economics, supply and demand, that should increase the value. So while you say you're looking for a discount, really it should be going up in price every auction that these items keep coming, with the adjustments for the general economy.